Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Monday, and all of our guests today, including Elliotte Friedman, standing by, are sponsored by Passant Motors. Don't love your vehicle? Let Passant Motors help get you into one you do. Learn more at Passant Motors, BASANTmotors.com. He's a busy man, but he's joining us from Hockey Night in Canada and the 32 Thoughts podcast, Elliotte Friedman. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
Well, I'm probably not as busy as you, but close.
I don't know, Rick. What time were you tweeting it this morning? What was it, like 5:30 Vancouver
5:30. I got up early today, Elliotte.
Hey, Elliotte,
something happened?
Oh, just a tweet at 10:30 last night. That's all. That's all.
When you heard that JT Miller was out for a week with an injury that a lot of people don't remember from Saturday night, what was your first thought?
Look, like there's so much conspiracy theory going around. Like I really, look, like I look at the big picture here, okay? 9 days ago, 2 Saturdays ago, I went on the air and I said, teams are calling the Canucks and they're saying, look, if you really do want to move Miller, what are you willing to do for it? Okay. And the answer I got from around the league was that they didn't want to do what it took. And I understood it. Like one of the teams indicated that it was going to be very painful for Vancouver to do it. And it doesn't make any sense for them where in their current position to do it if that's the way it's going to have to happen. So I think it was extremely unlikely that Miller got moved at this deadline, and nothing that happened in the last 24 hours has changed my opinion on that. It was much more likely not to happen than it was to happen. And, I mean, like we'll see how long he's out, but I don't know. I mean, there's this is what happens now. Like something gets reported and then people have their confirmation bias into whether they believe it or not.
Yeah.
And nobody's opinion is changing. Yeah. So if you believe that if you want Miller to be traded or you think he can be traded, nothing that is said after that is going to change your opinion.
Bingo.
And whatever the Canucks tweet, like he's out week to week, do you think that changes anybody's mind? No, it doesn't change anyone. Everybody already formulated their opinion beforehand, and that's not going to change their mind.
The Leafs, moments ago we found out about them getting Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty, draft picks and a couple of younger players. Just your opinion of that deal and just what the Leafs have been up to, stocking up with this deal and the Blues deal.
Well, I mean, Don, like that first round of the playoffs, if we get Tampa, Toronto, which we look like we're getting, and we get New Jersey and the Rangers, I mean, it's I hope that Sportsnet is smart enough to put them on opposite nights because I want to be able to pay attention to both. Those are going to be incredible series, like just incredible series. Like you look what the Leafs have done, you look at what Tampa's done. I mean, you look at like after 2 rounds of the playoffs, look at the teams that could be out in the Eastern Conference. Like there's only going to be 2 teams standing. Look who's going to be out. Obviously there's a lot on the line in Toronto this year. There's jobs on the line. They've done the best they can do, even with 3 days remaining. They've done the best that they can do to put together a very competitive team to take on Tampa in the first round. And the margin of difference here is going to be minuscule. It's going to be unbelievable, and you can't say that Toronto isn't putting their best effort forward. They have like no future in terms of draft capital. They've kept their best prospects, but they've traded away most of their big picks. So, Don, it's that first round. It's going to be a gong show. It's going to be incredible. Like we all say, the first round's the best.
Yep.
This year is going to be no different.
All right, Elliotte, let's get to a couple of important Canucks. First, what's going on with Luke Schenn? They sent him home a week ago, still no deal. What's going on, Elliotte?
I think it's kind of gone like this, Rick. I think there's some times where it's been closer, and I think there's been some times where people have backed away. I think the Canucks have a little bit of frustration with the way this is going because I think there's been some times they thought at least one team, if not other teams, were really getting close to saying, okay, let's do it. But they, obviously it never got done. I feel bad for the Schenns who, obviously Mrs. Schenn is due pretty soon. So this isn't easy for them either. But the main thing I think that's happened, Rick, is that there's a bunch of teams out here looking for D, and they feel that there's a lot of sellers and the buyers want to squeeze. And now look, Boston's now off the market, it looks like.
Yep.
Maybe not, but their biggest move is done. Toronto looks like, their biggest moves are done. Now you're looking at Edmonton, you're looking at Tampa, you're probably looking in a Los Angeles, although they're more looking for a lefty than a righty. Like I think the thing that people who are selling here are worried about, and the buyers are going away, and the sellers are going to be squeezed. And I just think that Schenn is in that area right now. Like I thought he would have been perfect for Toronto. I think that's unlikely now. I think he'd be good for a lot of other teams here. I thought he would be perfect for Boston. I don't know where that stands right now. So I think I'm looking at the other teams. Tampa. Tampa's a really interesting one because I thought it would be there. Then I heard no, and now they don't have a lot of capital left, so I'm not even sure if there's something like that that's even possible. I think there's still other teams out there looking for D, like Edmonton and potentially Calgary, but I just think there's so many sellers, it's gotten really harder. It's gotten really harder on them.
Brock Boeser, we know his agent, Ben Hankinson, Elliotte, is working the phones, is probably working them feverishly now. Is there a chance Boeser goes by Friday?
There's a chance. I would say it's more likely than Miller, for example, which I don't think is going to happen now. I do think at various times, Rick, Calgary has considered potentially both Boeser and Schenn. I don't know. Like the whole thing now with Calgary is that their season's gone worse than they hoped, and I think it's kind of got them putting on the brakes and saying, okay, I don't know if this makes sense for us now. So I think that has been a bit of a problem for potentially both players. I think there are teams looking at Boeser. I just think any deals now with term are really hard. Like Ekholm's now on the market for Nashville, and I think teams love him, but I don't think Nashville's too crazy about retaining, and I think it just makes deals very hard. So I think it comes down to A, who can do it, B, what's Vancouver willing to do, but I do think there's interest in Boeser. I just don't know how likely it is right now.
Okay. What are you hearing about Alex Kerfoot as we get back to the Leafs and his status with the Toronto Hockey Club?
Well, I think that the problem I think with that is, look at these two trades Toronto's made. They've given up nobody from their roster. Mm-hmm. Like the Maple Leafs has sent out noises that they don't want to break up their roster. And the two trades that they've done have backed up that feeling. I know there have been some rumors about Kerfoot in Vancouver. Yep. Toronto paid Minnesota an extra draft pick so they could keep Alex Kerfoot on the roster. Right. They are doing everything they can not to have to make moves like that. Now, I was looking at their roster right now. I see a couple of different ways here besides trade. Number one, it's how long is Matt Murray going to be on LTIR, and he's eligible to come off this week. But number two, I think right now they have a 23-man roster. If they sent down three players, they could be in a situation where they could be they could be clear. So I don't necessarily think they have to get rid of a body right now. I think, and they've got the guy who basically wrote the CBA in their front office. So I'm not convinced yet they have to make that move.
And Elliotte, do you have an idea of what the Canucks are getting in Vitaly Kravtsov, who didn't work out with the Rangers?
Look, he's a really talented guy. You don't go 9th overall in the draft if you're not talented. I use the line on the weekend, Don. Sometimes marriages don't work.
Yes.
And this one didn't. I haven't had that phenomenon yet, and I'm hoping to avoid it. But sometimes that happens. And But the one thing about Krasov is, I think he knows if it doesn't work out for him here, it's going to be very hard for him to stay in the NHL, because then he's going to become a guy who bounces around and doesn't make doesn't have big contracts or anything like that, and it becomes possibly more likely that he becomes a KHL player. So I think you're going to get a motivated player. He knows that if it doesn't work for him here, his best options are probably not here, especially financially. So I think you're going to get a guy who's going to give it the best run he can in Vancouver, and I think he absolutely needs a fresh start. Absolutely.
You're always busy, especially so this week, Elliotte. Thanks so much for making time for us, sir.
You got my pleasure, guys. Have a great week, and 2 weeks from now, what are we going to do? Or Rick, what stuff are we going to make up in 2 weeks?
We got to make stuff up, Elliotte. We got to. Yeah. Well, the 5% haters on Twitter think we make it up anyways, but we'll figure something out.
I don't care about those people.
Yeah, who cares about the haters? The haters going to hate.
Haters going to hate. We're going to have to make up what kind of ice cream Rick Tockett's not letting the Canucks eat. That's what we're going to have to make up. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you on that. Thanks, Elliotte.
The green one. Thank
Take
you,
care,
sir.
Guys.
Yeah. Elliotte Friedman, Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts podcast.